Perfect. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank everyone for joining us for this webinar on SUSTA's 50% cost share program. My name is Whitney Flatt, and I serve as the International Trade Consultant for the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. And the Southern U.S. Trade Association, or SUSTA, as you're going to hear them referred to throughout the presentation, is an incredible partner of TDA. And I know you're going to enjoy hearing from them more in depth about their funding program for wood products exporters. Today, you'll be hearing from a wide range of people to help you better understand what the 50% cost share program is, how to apply for it, what expenses are eligible for reimbursement, as well as how to couple that funding program with already existing international marketing opportunities. So to start, I'd like to introduce the people who will be leading today's discussion. So if you could just give a quick wave whenever I introduce you. First off is Neil Owens. Many of you already know Neil. He's the Tennessee Department of Agriculture's Forestry and Wood Products Business Consultant. He's also the person that keeps me straight on all things wood products. Next, I'd like to introduce Danielle Coco. Danielle is the Marketing Director for the Southern U.S. Trade Association. Next is Deneen Wiltz. Deneen is the 50% cost share director for the Tennessee Department, or excuse me, for the Southern U.S. Trade Association. We would take you at the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, Deneen, in a heartbeat. But yes, Deneen is the 50% cost share director for the Southern U.S. Trade Association. And Deneen and Danielle are the two ladies that are going to be leading the bulk of today's discussion, and they will also be your follow-up points of contact if you have additional programmatic questions. Next, I'd like to introduce Trip Pryor. Trip serves as the International Program Manager for the American Hardwood Export Council, and he's going to round out our discussion today, basically touching on very practical ways that companies can get plugged into some of Ahak's international marketing events, which, as you'll learn, are things that can be covered under the cost share program. So before we jump into the meat and potatoes of today's discussion, I'd like to introduce, last but not least, Candace Dinwiddie. Candace is the Executive Director of the Tennessee Forestry Association, and I'm going to invite her to kick us off with some opening remarks.
Hey, Whitney. Hey, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good summer. And it's a good time to be in Tennessee and a great time to be a part of our wood industry in Tennessee. I just again like to introduce myself. I'm Candace with the Tennessee Forestry Association. And I'm so excited about the cost share opportunities that we'll learn more about in just a few minutes. I really believe, and I've been around 30 plus years, but this will serve to increase the ability of our family-owned sawmills in Tennessee and other wood manufacturers to compete and become more savvy and successful in exporting our Tennessee wood products. At TFA, we believe that this is some of the best news we've heard in a long time, and we've been needing to hear some good news. This will help sustain our wood industry. Our wood producers have sure taken some hard hits during the past year or so. We thank SUSTA, the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, and each of you who are participating in our webinar. You are the backbone of Tennessee. You ensure economies are supported even in our most rural, at-risk counties. And by providing the markets you do, you ensure a healthy volunteer state forest. If any of us at TFA can ever be of assistance, please call or email me. It's our pleasure to work with each of you. And thank you for participating in the webinar. If there's any way we can be assistance here at TFA, we just working with each of you is the highlight of our day, each day. And I'll turn over the program back to our friends from SUSTA and Whitney. And again, thank you to all of our folks at SUSTA. This is great for us to learn more about what you do. And thank you, Whitney and Neil and others at the Tennessee Department of Agriculture for partnering with TFA and our members on so very beneficial programs in the past 2 years. You've helped us become a much stronger and better association and better to serve our members. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace, so much for those kind words. And for anybody who knows Candace and the TFA team, it's really hard not to love and respect that team for all the hard work and effort they put into promoting Tennessee wood products. So thank you for being here, Candace, and thank you for all that TFA does to support our wood products industry. We truly appreciate you. So a few housekeeping items, and then we're going to get started. So today's webinar is being recorded. All attendees were automatically muted as you entered the event. At the end of the webinar, we will be leaving time for a Q&A session. So as the presentation goes along, if you have questions that come to mind, please enter those questions in the chat box, and we will be sure to address those at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I am going to throw the floor over to Danielle Coco with SUSTA.
Great, thank you, Whitney, so much. And one other housekeeping mention, we will email everybody a PDF of the presentation as well as a link to the recording afterwards. So somebody had already asked, do I need to be taking notes? Nope, just sit back and listen and yeah, ask questions at the end, as Whitney said. And thank you all for joining us today. I can tell by the registration that this is a topic that a lot of Tennessee folks are interested in. So we will go ahead and jump in. Sorry, my slide is not advancing. There we go. All right, so SUSTA is a nonprofit trade association. Deneen and I are headquartered in New Orleans, but we cover the whole southern region. So all of these states that you see in blue and listed on the screen are the states in which SUSTA offers our programs. I'll get into the funding and exactly how we work, but it's the departments of agriculture throughout the South who, you know, the commissioners and secretaries of agriculture make up SUSTA's board and help govern our association. And then the international marketing staff in each of these states at the Department of Ag level, they are integral parts of how SUSTA operates. So you'll see this adorable photo of Whitney here. I think this is at a trade show in Mexico where she was managing one of SUSTA's events there. You know, companies who take part in SUSTA's programs really get to know folks from all over the region who are taking part in our programs. So it's truly a regional association, and you know, the thought is that it's just a stronger association because we can pull on the resources from all over the region to help exports from the South. So our funding, though, is federal. The bulk of our funding comes from the USDA's Foreign Agricultural Service. They created the Market Access Program, and then SUSTA was formed to operate MAP in the South back in the 70s, early 70s. So these programs have been around for a really long time. And the Market Access Program is implemented by a lot of what we're called cooperators. So SUSTA is a cooperator, and so is Ahak, the American Hardwood Export Council. And I just wanted to break this down visually so that you could understand how we all work together. So under the Market Access Program, there are two specific programs that are operated, generic and branded. And generic is more industry focused. So Ahak helps to promote the hardwood industry internationally and support exports of the industry. And the branded program that SUSTA implements, we call it 50% cost share, but it's a way to help individual companies promote their brands internationally. So it's, you know, two different programs that kind of work hand in hand to support exports overall from the US. And we're excited to talk with you about branded. You know, SUSTA renamed it cost share because companies were a little bit confused as to the generic and branded titles and names. But anyway, just so you know, for our purposes, it is the cost share program. And so, you know, most of the companies that SUSTA traditionally works with are in the food and beverage space. You know, that's just the bulk of the companies who have traditionally taken part in these programs are like grocery items and, you know, value added food. It could be seafood or alcohol. Horticulture is, you know, some horticulture companies, but we really haven't gotten too much into wood products. So this is pretty new for us, and we're really happy to have the support of folks like Neil and Candace and Tripp to help us navigate this. But for companies to be a part of our programs, they have to be headquartered in the South. If they're not, there is an association like SUSTA that would shepherd them through the market access programs. Companies that we work with need to be small by the Small Business Administration size standards. And I was looking around, and for sawmills, SBA thinks of small as fewer than 500 employees. So that's just a good benchmark. I think a lot of times people see small and they think, oh gosh, we can only have a couple employees, or, you know, you have to be tiny, but it's really, you don't need to be that tiny to be considered small by the SBA. And then we just want to make sure that companies have adequate resources and products and, you know, have been in business long enough, maybe, you know, at least 50,000 in sales from the previous year before they jump into this fun new world of exporting and, you know, starting to put their own resources and time into this. So anyway, we just want to make sure companies are ready. And then in terms of the products that we can work with, as I mentioned, we help companies promote a brand. So the products have to be branded in some way. It could just be the name of your sawmill, but you know, we're helping you promote a brand. We're not helping, for instance, Tennessee promote Tennessee hardwoods as a like generic group. We're helping the individual companies promote their brands. And this next one probably doesn't so much apply to you all, because I think all of your product is grown in Tennessee or in the region. But when you think about food products in particular, it has to be made from at least 50% US agriculture. So for all those value-added products where, you know, there are multiple ingredients, we're just making sure that at least half comes from the US. And then you'll hear in our presentation, we talk a lot about having a US origin statement on items that are supported through these programs. And that just means that you have to indicate that it's an American product, made in USA, made in Tennessee. The Tennessee Wood Products logo would suffice. So just wanted to mention that because you'll hear us talking about it as we go through the programs. And I will hand it over to Deneen now, who will talk more about CostShare and exactly how we help you.
Thank you, Danielle, for that. And welcome, everybody. We're glad to have you here on this presentation. As Danielle mentioned, SUSTA's branded program is referred to as the 50% cost share. It's a 50% reimbursement program for eligible international marketing promotions. And also, as Danielle mentioned, we're funded by the USDA Foreign Agriculture Service, FAS, as we like to refer to them. Therefore, there are specific promotions which we can assist companies for that are shown on this screen. I will discuss in details a little later on the next few slides, but I'll give you a couple of minutes to review the information on this page. All right, Danielle, next slide, please. Okay, so international trade shows. 50% cost share can assist with expenses such as your exhibition and booth fees to exhibit at trade shows. As you can see, there are examples here on this screen of the trade shows that particularly targets your industry. We can also assist for up to 2 company employees or representatives, their travel expenses, that would be their airfare, their lodging, and meal and incidental expenses, per diems. We can also assist, we can only assist for 2 days before the trade show begins, the dates of the trade show, and 1 day after the trade show concludes. And travelers must leave and return to the States using a US or EU carrier and fly coach economy class. There is only one trade show that the USDA deems as eligible through cost share that targets your industry. That trade show is the International Builders Show. Again, we can assist with certain expenses for that trade show. The only thing we cannot assist with, because it's a domestic trade show, would be the travel cost, and that's the airfare, lodging, and meal and incidental expenses. If a trade show moves from in-person to a virtual trade show, we can assist with the trade show fees to participate in that virtual trade show, and also a professional photographer that you may have to hire to design the virtual trade show booth. Next slide, please, Danielle. All right, for approved outbound trade missions. So the only approved outbound trade missions that we can assist for is if it's organized by SUSTA, by Ahak, or the USDA. And all of the trade missions have to take place in a foreign country. What we can assist for, again, the participation fee, travel for up to 2 company employees or representatives that will travel over there to participate in a mission. Again, that's for their airfare, their lodging, and meal and incidental expenses. And again, this applies just like for the international trade shows. We could pay for 2 days before the mission, the dates of the mission, and 1 day after the mission concludes. And again, travelers, they must leave and return to the States using a US or EU carrier and fly coach economy class. So here are some other promotional expenses that we can assist for that are tied directly for exhibiting at trade shows in our trade missions. Your point of sale materials, you may have to have flyers or sales sheets or banners to use at the trade show or trade mission. We could pay for the design, the translation, and the printing charges for those point of sale materials to be used at the show or mission. If you have to ship your product samples and your point of sale materials, like I just mentioned, such as your banner, your sales sheets, your brochures to and from the trade show, we could assist with that. Equipment rental and setup charges and other expenses we could also assist for your company to participate in a trade show and trade mission. An example of the equipment rental you may have to have, for example, if you go to a trade show and you're meeting all these buyers and you have to keep their leads, if you rent the lead retrieval app, we could assist with the rental cost for that. Also, for any type of little giveaway items that you hand out at the trade show, we could assist for up to $2 per item. However, if the cost is less than $2, we will assist with the lesser of the cost. You can hand out a ruler, as this example shows, also a koozie, ink pens. Those are small items you could hand out at the trade show. If you have to hire a host or interpreter to assist you in the booth at the trade show, we could assist with 50% of the cost for that. However, we can assist for anybody that's related to your company or associated with your company or any of your distributors' employees. So you will have to go through an outside contractor in order for us to assist with those temporary wages for that person to be in the booth. As you can see here in this photograph, we have some happy people here with their shirts on. We also could assist with uniforms. So if they purchase uniforms to wear at the trade show or trade mission, we could assist with that. One of the most important things that I forgot to mention on the other slides, and as you heard that Danielle mention, you have to always be promoting your brand and have a U.S. origin statement, such as made in the USA, made in Tennessee, with Tennessee spelled out in its entirety, the logo that Tennessee has for the wood logo. Next slide, Danielle, please. All right. Some of the things that you can do are advertisements. There's various advertisements that you can do. You could do printed ads where you have to have them designed and placed into the magazine. We could help with Facebook ads as well as Google ads. Again, you want to make certain that you are promoting your brand and have an eligible U.S. origin statement. And if you have to hire a firm for the foreign advertising campaign. We could pay for the firm as well as the design and the placement of the ad. Next slide, Danielle.
Sure. And I was also just going to mention, if you are doing a trade show, I know a lot of companies like to advertise in the trade show directory as well.
That's correct. All right, suppose your website is outdated and you want to make it user-friendly or to target a foreign audience. We could assist with those charges. We could assist with the design and development expenses, the translation, as well as the servicing of your sites and your pages on the website. So maybe you want to target that foreign market, let's say Canada, we could assist with that, as long as you can have your website in that language or to target that audience. Again, you want to make certain that there is a U.S. origin statement that's clearly shown, made in the USA, made in Tennessee, or the Tennessee Wood Products logo. This applies for all of your promotions that you want to do with SUSTA's 50% cost share. And I'll hand it back over to you, Danielle.
Oops, sorry. Great, thanks, Deneen. So yes, that was a good overview of everything that SUSTA can help support with 50% reimbursement. The first step in getting started with SUSTA is to create a free account on our website. We'll just make sure that you meet those basic eligibility requirements. And I just want to point out, so it's susta.org is the website. And as you're creating your account, it's going to ask you which of our programs you're interested in. And you would want to select 50% cost share. We don't really have global events for this sector. And really that's where Ahak helps you out, is, you know, in creating events for this industry. So don't select global events, or I mean, you can, but that's probably just not anything that's going to help you guys. Definitely select cost share. That's just a critical part of it. And then as you create your account, you will need to select at least one 6-digit HS code. The harmonized system codes are the internationally recognized codes that help identify your products. So you'll, start with the 44, and then those arrows on the right will then open up 4-digit codes, and then you can finally get to the 6-digit code. So just make sure that you identify at least one 6-digit code in your MySUSTA account. And then the only other code that you're really going to need is your North American Industry Classification System code. I think I forgot the system here. So as you start typing into that text box, it'll pull up the NAICS codes. So if you know at least, the prefix, but sawmills are up here, and I can include this in the email that we send you after. But this is how we have to compare your NAICS code with the SBA size limit, and that's how we determine if companies are small or not. So we're happy to help you figure out these codes if you have questions, but everything else in creating your MySUSTA account is pretty easy other than these two codes. It's just going to be, your company information, but we're happy to walk you through any of that. And then Deneen, I'll hand it over to you. So after you create your MySUSTA account, then you would have to fill out a cost share application.
And I'm just going to jump in really quickly before we transition to the application part. So I am always happy to come visit you at your sawmill, wherever you are. One of the things that I spend a lot of time doing is getting companies registered into that SUSTA system. So if you're thinking, oh my goodness, this already seems like too much work, too much like things to know in paperwork, do not stress. That is what I'm here for. So please reach out and leverage me as a resource if you decide to take advantage of this program.
Awesome.
And also, Whitney, we can schedule a conference call if, they need to have more questions that they have about cost share. So I'm more than happy to do that as well with Whitney. All right, so now that you've found out or know about the types of promotions that we can assist for, and you have registered your company for your MySUSTA account, The next step would be to complete an application, a 50% cost share application. One of the most important parts of the application is the screenshot you see here with the promotions. We want to know what types of promotions you want to do in a specific market where the promotion takes place. So if there's a trade show in Germany, you would do a marketing plan for Germany. And then you will come up with what you plan on doing in that market. So if you plan on doing advertisement, like Danielle mentioned about the trade show directory, if you want to take out an ad in that directory, you will complete the section where it says advertising. So you will come up with your estimated costs. When you see estimated costs, that means the total cost. So you'll come up with the total cost it will cost for that advertisement. The same applies for freight. If you're going to be sending product samples and or your point of sale materials, or even your promotional giveaway items, to the trade show, to and from the trade show, we could assist with the cost for that. So then you got to come up with how much it's going to cost to send that information or send those items to and from the trade show. So that's how you would do the application. It's based on your definite plans. You don't want to put anything in the application where you think it may be way out months later and you're not exactly certain that you may do something or not. And the reason I caution companies never to just put things there that you're not going to do is because we have fees that are involved. We have the $250 application fee, and that fee is required for me to review and process the application. Can you go back on the other slide for me, Danielle? Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. There are funds where companies can, your minimum and maximum. The minimum amount you could apply for is $2,500, which means if you request $2,500 in reimbursement, you have to spend a total of $5,000. The same applies for the maximum, $300,000. You have to spend a total of $600,000 to request $300,000 in reimbursement. All right, Danielle, you could go to the next slide. Thank you. So as I was saying, there are fees involved with cost share. You have the $250 application fee. Again, that's for me to review and process the application. Then the next fee is what is the 6% administrative fee. That fee is based on the amount that you're going to request for reimbursement. So like you heard me mention about the $2,500, you will pay the 6% administrative fee on that. So after your application has been submitted, I review. If it looks good, you'll get an approval email from me stating that your application has been approved. Then you'll have access to sign the contract. You can sign the contract electronically from your SUSTA portal. You can also pay that 6% admin fee using a credit card from your SUSTA portal. Both fees are non-refundable. That's why I never like a company to over budget. Budget wisely, get approved for the amount, the low amount, go out there, work on your promotions, gather all of your required documentation. That's your invoices, your proofs of payments, and your proofs of activity. And that varies depending on the activity. If you're going to a trade show to exhibit in the booth, then we need to see your company's photographs of your booth. Again, you have to have your brand and have a U.S. origin statement. Again, use that Tennessee logo. That's what you can do. All right, so then after you collect all of your documents, submit your expense claims, we'll review. If everything looks good, that company receives 50% reimbursement. And you're considered a participant, a cost share participant after you've been fully contracted. And that means that you've signed your contract and you paid your fee. So once you do that, you sign your contract, pay your fee, that's when you start working on your promotions. And right here is our manual. It's a handy guide. Every year we update it We're working on our 2022 manual, so we can have that available August 1st. So August 1st, we'll open up for the 2022 program year. Anything you want to add, Danielle?
I might just go back 2 slides to when you start your application. So you would create an application every year. And before you do anything, spend any money, you have to apply first. So that's why we opened the 2022 application this August, in about 2 weeks, so that companies can apply this fall for next year, so that come January 1st, they're contracted in the program and they can, go and you do your marketing and get your reimbursements. And the other thing I wanted to mention, just per what Deneen said about not overestimating, when you put in these estimated costs here, Deneen mentioned maybe not overestimating, because you're going to pay that 6%. You can always come back after you're contracted, and even after the trade show is over, and say, hey, I spent more than I said I was going to. And as long as you haven't hit this $300,000 maximum for the year, you can always amend your application and let us know, hey, I spent some more, and we would invoice you the 6% on the additional, that you're gonna request. So anyway, when you complete your application, just keep that in mind, that you don't have to know like an exact estimate, but something close would be good.
The other thing I want to mention is, I know it's a lot of information to absorb, but you always will have staff to guide you through the steps. You have Whitney there, you have I'm here to help you with the application. I always do consultations with companies, especially for new companies, because I want to make certain they get all the guidance that they can get. And then we also have an expense claim coordinator. And she provides guidance as well, and she does consultations as well. So you will always have somebody to guide you through the steps. So never feel overwhelmed. Never think any question is a crazy question. I love questions, and I'm here to help you. Thanks.
All right, and I think that was the end of our presentation. So I will stop sharing, and then Trip, you will be able to share your presentation.
Okay, is it my turn? We're a little ahead of schedule here.
We are a little bit.
All right, that's great. Let me know when you guys can see it.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, I am Trip Pryor. I'm the International Program Manager for the American Hardwood Export Council, and I'm excited to talk to you guys this afternoon about some of the global opportunities for American hardwoods. As Danielle mentioned, we are on the generic side of promotion, which means that we promote the material itself. We convince people that they should use American hardwoods instead of some other type of wood or some other type of material like a plastic or something like that. So I want to let you guys know about our upcoming schedule. We've had a tough couple of years, not been able to travel, not been able to do a lot of in-person events. And I know you guys are eager to go out and see some of your existing customers and go to things like trade shows and make new customers. So we've got a very busy schedule planned, hopefully where we can do that starting in 2022. If you're unfamiliar with AHEC, American Hardwood Export Council, we are the promotional organization for American hardwood globally. And we do that through a variety of ways. We look at new markets, new places where we can reach out to. Maybe they're using other types of materials. Maybe there's a manufacturing sector that isn't using American hardwood and we think that they could. We also look for new applications. We look for ways that we can transform hardwoods into a product and get it into a new sector. So this is things like research funding for cross-laminated timber so that American wood products can be used in construction, or thermally modified hardwoods so that hardwoods can be used outdoors and outdoor furniture and cladding and things like that. We also work with environmental groups to promote the green credentials of hardwoods and show that it is an environmentally friendly material. It is the greenest material you can possibly use. And the thing that I'm going to focus on that we do are our industry networking events all over the world. And that is most commonly, as has been mentioned earlier in the program through American Hardwood Pavilions. And I know a couple people on the call are Ahak members and are very familiar with these. For those of you who aren't, essentially we identify the biggest trade shows globally that are relevant to the American hardwood industry and purchase a large block space in a US hardwood pavilion. And we will have a booth promoting material, handing out species guides, grading guides, all those things. And the rest of the booth, we portion out to US companies. And for a subsidized fee of $500, you will receive one of the booths like pictured here. So it'll have a table, some chairs, your desk with your signage on it. You will just need to provide decorations and whatever you want to hand out at the booth. So for $500, especially if that's portioned out in SUSTA, you get half of that. That's a really good deal. That is an extremely cost competitive way to get in front of new customers in some of the biggest trade shows all over the world. This one in particular, Dubai Wood, is really attractive because it brings in people from all over the region, from Northern Africa, from Middle East, far away as Pakistan. So it's one show you can go to over a week, and you won't have to travel all over hunting down customers or trying to meet customers. Everybody's in one, excuse me, everybody's in one place. So it's very attractive for that reason. We have usually about 15 to 20 booths at this show. Probably the largest show that we go to in terms of booth size has been Vietnam Wood, and this is in Ho Chi Minh City in the fall. This is a photo, I think from 2018 when we did this show. We will have upwards of 30 booths for this show and more if we can secure additional space. This is one that sells out pretty quickly. Vietnam has become a very important market for American hardwoods, actually surpassed Canada in terms of value and volume of American hardwood lumber being sent to Vietnam. So extremely important market, growing market, and one that I would definitely recommend going in person and networking. It's definitely a hands-on market that can help. So this is another opportunity where you can go get a booth space and network directly with interested customers. Another option that we have are the Ahak Conventions. In the past, we've had European conventions, Southeast Asia, and Greater China conventions. For 2022, we're trying to get a European convention on the books. We'll see what we can do, but we do have scheduled China convention in Chengdu and a Southeast Asia convention in Bangkok, which have actually been rolled over from 2021. But those will be in June. And what those are basically 2-day events where the first day is educational. So we bring in interested buyers from the region and talk to them about the sustainability of American hardwoods. We talk to them about the architecture and design aspects of American hardwoods, how you can use the different species. We also bring in graders from the NHLA and have a grading seminar. So we really try to educate them, give them a crash course, everything they could need to know about specifying American hardwoods and why they should do so. And then on the second day of the show, Ahak members will have tabletop booths. So it'll be a booth in a networking cocktail session that has your company logo on the front, and you can meet with customers and hand out information. This is all included for Ahak members, and the attendees that we've been able to bring in for this show has been extremely strong in the past. We've had about 200 attendees, not counting US companies, for Southeast Asia Convention, and about 500 for the China Convention. And we usually get 30 to 50 US company representatives that come out for this show as well. So it's a really directed, intensive 2-day event that can network with a lot of different people. And this is as well, I believe, an event that would be eligible for SUSTA potentially. So another thing that's also tagged on to that, the China Convention is right next to the Silverwood trade show, and we have a pavilion there. So in one trip, you can do the China Convention and a large trade show in Shanghai. So I mentioned part of the convention are educational seminars. And these are things that we do not just at trade shows and at conventions, but all over the world on directed tours. We work with architects and designers all over the world, as well as with the NHLA, to get lumber inspectors and lumber graders out to do directed seminars. And this is something that we encourage companies to attend. For a market like Japan, for example, there's not as many trade shows that are directly relevant, but we do regularly grading seminars And this is an event where companies that are purchasing lumber or interested in purchasing lumber come in, and we have a grader come out and talk to them. And this is something that, maybe there'll be 1 or 2 company representatives there in the room. But if you're interested in that market, that's a great chance to get in the room with people who are buying hardwoods. It's not a trade show. You're not going to get hundreds and hundreds of different people coming by your booth, but for a directed market that you're interested in, this is a good opportunity as well. These are a couple of pictures from our some of our recent grading seminars throughout Southeast Asia. I think we've got Malaysia, Vietnam as well in here. And I want to talk briefly about India as well, because this is a market that I think a lot of us know just from a population size perspective, and that is intriguing. They are going to pass China here within 4 years in terms of population size. So as an in-demand market, they're interesting for the future. They've still got a ways to go to match China in terms of their purchasing, in terms of their consumption of hardwoods, but already they are an attractive market for hardwood products. There are a lot of US hardwood logs that go in and some veneer, and they use a lot of local timber as well, but they are already importing $270 million of hardwood lumber. They're just not really using it from the US yet. It's 1.4% of the lumber came from the US, and there's a lot of room there to grow. They are using imported materials. Some of their local species have been CITES listed, so they're looking for alternatives for it. It's a cost competitive market, but it's a big enough market that there are regions that will purchase and produce using high quality materials, high value materials. So it's one that we're looking at more and more going forward. One thing to note about this, you see this graph, that tiny little sliver in red is the US market share. If you go down to the United Kingdom, it's 4 or 5 times our market share, and it's all English willow for cricket bats. Just that one use, and that's, a pretty significant chunk. So if we can find little avenues, places where, lower value or lower priced species are competitive, then we can find a very good market in India. And that's actually the first event that we have scheduled for 2022, which is India Wood in Bangalore, India, at the end of February. And also as part of this, we'll have educational seminars, technical seminars, try to reach out directly to some more companies and get them in a room together and further pitch American hardwoods. But we'll have probably about 10 booths for this show. This is from our pavilion there in 2018. We'll also do occasionally a open plan booth space, so that instead of one designated booth that you're responsible for, we will have kind of cubbies and an open space. So if you meet someone, talk to them, you go into a cubby and kind of work out there, and that's your dedicated space. And in those instances, we don't charge the $500 booth fee, just because there is not that dedicated space. So it's a little bit more open if you want to attend just a couple days of the show, or attend and walk around and not have to be tied to one spot. So that is an option as well. So this is our schedule for 2022. There's still a little bit of flexibility in there. We are very hopeful and optimistic that we'll be able to do all these events, but understand that different countries will progress at different rates with regards to travel restrictions and visas and everything like that need to get ironed out in the next year. So our schedule starts with Pavilion in Bangalore. March is very busy as always. Dubai Wood Show, and then Interzum Guangzhou and FEMA Maderalia, and that's in Spain at the end of the month. In June, we have our conventions. Bangkok right now scheduled for right before our China convention in Chengdu, and then immediately after the China convention would be Silverwood in Shanghai. In August, we have Tecnomueble in Mexico. September's one of the largest furniture shows in China. It's FMC in Shanghai. And then October, we're going to go back to India, do some directed factory visits in Rajasthan, which is the region in Northwest India that's producing the majority of furniture in the country. We have our sights set on Intermob in Turkey, in Istanbul. Hopefully we'll be able to do that show. And based on some scheduling that needs to get worked out, there'll be a Vietnam show in October, and we plan on having a pavilion there as well. So that's a lot of events. If you have any questions or would like any more information about our international events, here is my email. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And we have our events and our international offices listed on our website. That's ahec.org, ahec.org. So please check it out and let me know if you have any questions.
Great. And just to bring that full circle, so if you guys register with Ahak to do a show and exhibit, that $500 fee is 50% reimbursable, plus travel, plus your marketing materials that you're going to create for the show, your banners and things you're going to hand out. And advertising a trade show directory, all of that. So there's a real opportunity to use these programs together.
And as part of that, with especially our larger shows, we do try to have a hotel block for the companies that are going. That is something that the companies individually pay, but we negotiate because we do have such a large group going. A lot of times we can get a pretty good deal for you guys if you're staying at the hotel that we're using. And then we can also help organize, transport to and from the show sometimes and things like that. That'll help you guys out as well.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Trip. Okay, we've had a bunch of questions coming in, and while we're talking about travel, we did have someone ask about flight reimbursements. If I book an economy ticket and get upgraded to business class, is that still eligible for cost share? It is. We would only be able to reimburse half of the economy fare though. So Deneen, if you want to weigh in on that.
Yes. So if you want to upgrade, you will have to get a quote on what it would cost to fly coach economy, leaving to and from the trade show on those eligible dates. And we'll look at the coach economy fare and also look at the fare that the airfare that you paid for, whichever is the lesser of the two, that's what we reimburse 50% of the cost for.
And then another question about shows. What about trade show cancellations due to COVID or other circumstances? Are the fees still non-refundable? I'm guessing the 6% fee.
Okay. So if the company has paid the 6% admin fee and it has been canceled, we request them to try to see if they could recoup their funds from the trade show organizer or get some kind of proof to show that they try to reach out to recoup the funds. And then once we have that proof on file, then we'll be able to assist the companies on those canceled, for the canceled events, trade shows.
And then some other questions that were coming in that we were answering as they were coming in, just typing in answers, but I think they're worth discussion. Are lumber and veneer eligible for the branded program? Yes, as Neil responded, they are, as long as you're promoting a brand.
That's correct.
So really that's our only requirement in terms of product. But Neil brings up a good point about aggregating the lumber. So if you are somebody who is selling your lumber as well as other mills, or you're just an aggregator and you're not the supplier at all, that's fine. We have a process if you are going to be promoting other brands that you don't own, you would just have to get sign off from the brand owner when you apply for the funding. And they just have to say it's okay for, Acme Mill to promote my brands in Vietnam using these funds. So just keep that in mind too.
Yes, and to add to what you said, Danielle, part of the application, in that application, when you complete the product section of the application, you would select yes or no if you own the brand. If you select no, what happens is the certification of exclusivity form pre-populates the information, and then you just, print off that form, sign, date it, and send it to the brand owner to sign a date and send it back to us for our files.
Yeah. All right. Is the 6% admin fee on the 50% reimbursement or the total expense? It's on the 50% reimbursement. Oh, yep. Mm-hmm. So if you tell us in 2022, I'm going to spend, $10,000 in Germany and $10,000 in Vietnam, so $20,000 total in estimated expenses, and I'm requesting $10,000 from SUSTA total, you would pay the 6% on that $10,000. So on the 50% amount. So you would pay $600 for us to set aside the $10,000. for those events that are in the future. And then again, should you spend more, that's fine. You would just amend your application or your contract, and we would end up invoicing you 6% on the additional amount. Right. Great questions. Let's see what else we have. Can CostShare reimburse for travel expenses associated with traveling to a foreign country to meet with customers?
Not to meet with customers, but let's say that you were going to the trade show, and sometimes we have companies that want to meet customers while they're already in that market. That is fine. However, again, you got to get a quote on what it would cost on those eligible dates, flying to and from the States on a U.S. carrier, and then we'll compare the quote with the actual fare that you paid. And again, the lesser of the two would reimburse 50% for the lesser amount.
Okay. Can CostShare be used to cover general expenses such as machinery, wages, or fuel?
The only machinery we could assist for are if you were going to, let's say, a trade show and you had to rent some machine to use at the trade show, but to just not for any fuel or anything outside of those perimeters for exhibiting at the trade show.
And Danielle, I saw a really good question come in about location and physical location to be eligible for this program. So it says, does my business have to be located physically in a southern state, or is it sufficient to ship my product from these states to overseas customers? So could you talk a little bit about the regional eligibility for the SUSTA program?
Sure. So the company or mill who is applying for the funding, we look to see where you are headquartered. So even if you're sourcing lumber or wood from another region in the US, that's fine as long as it's from the US. So we just look to see where you are headquartered, whoever is applying for the funding. And if you're outside of SUSTA's region, again, these are federal programs, so we would connect you with the group that's like SUSTA who handles the region where you are headquartered. Does that answer? Whitney, do you think that's good?
Yeah, I think that answers it, because I mean, we do have a lot of aggregators of wood products that ship internationally, but for this specific SUSTA program within the SUSTA region, which encompasses the 15 southeastern states and Puerto Rico, and we can get you a list of what those states are in the follow-up email, the companies applying for the CostShare program in the SUSTA region would have to be located in the SUSTA region.
That's correct.
I think his add-on there was, is an office in Tennessee sufficient? But you're saying it's where the headquarters is, right?
Yes, exactly. So it has to be like the main headquarters. So an office in Tennessee would not necessarily be sufficient. But if you are headquartered anywhere in the South, which yes, that'll be in the follow-up email. And then what is the difference between SUSTA and various state export program grants? The states do not charge a 6% fee. So I don't know about Tennessee's specific programs, but I bet Neil or Whitney could speak to that.
I'm assuming they're referring to STEP funding or some other grant fund that is funneled through the state directly. And the difference is, can they be combined? I don't know. Whitney, is this
No, because they're both federal grant fundings, they would have to use one pool or the other. Now they could use STEP funding to cover advertising if they want, and then use SUSTA CostShare funding to cover all of their travel expenses and their trade show booth. It just depends on how they want to break that down. Every state's STEP program is run differently, and they all cover a different amount of things. Some states do charge an admin fee, some states don't. The STEP program is a little bit different than this. and that there's a little bit more flexibility in how it's run. So I definitely understand that question, and it makes sense to want to know what the difference are between the two, because you want to get the most bang for your advertising buck and marketing buck, and we absolutely get that. So it would, whatever state you're located in, it would be good for you to reach out to that state's STEP program director and see, you know, what the differences are between the programs, so that you do get the most bang for your buck. But I will say, for us personally in the state of Tennessee, I know that our STEP program does not cover travel of any kind, and that's actually going to be the bulk of your expenses. Our STEP program also has a $10,000 annual cap, whereas the SUSTA program has a $300,000 annual cap. So just some differences and ways to weigh it out, but we can definitely talk about those differences offline if you want to contact me directly.
Yeah, and while the STEP and SUSTA can't be used together, or, you know, for the same expenses, let's say you use STEP for your booth fee, or I don't know, whatever it's eligible for, and you use SUSTA for travel and other things, that's fine if it's, you know, going towards the same event or something. It just can't be for the exact same expenses.
Yeah, you can't double dip on the same expense.
Yes,
If you're getting your $500 trade show booth from Ahak and SUSTA gives you half, and then STEP comes back and gives you half, that's a big no-no.
Exactly. Do I have to be an Ahak member in order to use CostShare? No.
No. Go ahead, Danielle. That's okay.
Yeah, no. It's an easy one. If I stay in country after a trade show to conduct further business, can CostShare be applied to the expenses from the entire trip? We kind of covered that already.
Right. We can only cover the dates of the trade show. 2 days before the dates of the trade show and 1 day after. So any other expenses, that would be expenses on for the company.
Yeah, your other hotel nights. And then of course we can, as Deneen mentioned earlier, work with you on booking your flights to make sure that, you know, it's fine if you extend your trip. We just have some steps that you have to take. What are the limits of, oh, well, okay, yeah. I think we've, sorry, some of these came in earlier and I think we've covered them. And we're almost at the 4 o'clock mark.
There's a couple in the chat as well.
Oh.
Jennifer Liu asked, can you exit at a Ahak trade show, excuse me, I think exhibit at an Ahak trade show and then attend an Ahak regional meeting, or only trade show is eligible?
We won't be able to assist for you to attend a meeting, but for the trade show, yes. But let's say that you wanted to do your own seminar. You were conducting your own seminar to educate these buyers on your brand products. Then we could assist for certain expenses for the company to conduct its own seminar, but not for them to attend a meeting or seminars.
And then another great question just came in. Is there a deadline to apply, or can we apply throughout the year? You can apply throughout the year. As we mentioned, we're about to open up the 2022 application process starting August 1st, but we're still operating in 2021. So as long as, let's say you had something coming up at the end of this year, 2021, our application for this year is still open. It's a rolling application process. So, you know, you can be applying for things that you'll do later this year, and that's fine. All right.
Yeah. And just to follow up on that, Danielle, because I know that we talked about that August 1st opening up of the application, but there are a lot of companies in Tennessee that we work with that are just now in June and July opening up their CostShare application for the first time and submitting it for events that they weren't kind of sure if they were going to make because of COVID, but it looks like they might make, you know, in the fall. So they're just now submitting their 2021 applications right now in July. So yeah, I don't want people to feel, because I know a lot of times with, especially with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, we have a lot of great grant programs that are open for very short, you know, 1 and 2 week windows. This is not like that at all. It's when you have your marketing plan ready to execute, we can then plug you into that application process and get you squared away. So it's a rolling application that you can do anytime throughout the year.
Thank you.
Just remember, I wanted to add, some companies think that, you know, when they do the 2021 application, if they don't do anything, can we roll those fees from 2021 over to 2022? And I'm talking about like the application fee. That fee, again, is non-refundable. So if once I review the application, have my consultation with the companies for 2021, it cannot roll over to 2022. And remember, for 2022, you have to reapply for the program year. So it doesn't roll from one program year to the next.
Well, out of respect for everybody's time, I think we will go ahead and call this webinar and say goodbye. Great questions. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, to Candace, to Tripp, everybody who was on today. We hope this was beneficial, and we will be sending out a follow-up email with all the information and with our contact info. So happy to keep these conversations going and work with you all to support your international marketing efforts. Does anybody else want to say any last words?
I would just like to reiterate that, this is a great opportunity for hardwood exporters in the South. And, don't be shy if there are things that you're currently doing that you're spending money on. We can help basically maximize and double your marketing budget. And if you've been on the fence about exporting for a while and, want that assistance of not only, figuring out what your target markets are, but also creating this marketing plan, please don't be shy to reach out to us and leverage all of us as resources to help you get to where you want to be.
Yep. It takes a village, and everybody on this call is pretty much the village of support. So lean on us, and we look forward to working with you.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.